Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone. If you've ever played the lottery before, then chances are you've spent at least a little bit of time thinking about how your life might be changed if you were to win the elusive jackpot. Perhaps you'd quit your job, buy a new house, or that fancy car you've always dreamed of. Or maybe you'd want to share the wealth with your friends and family. Depending on how much money you won, maybe it would be all of the above. One thing that probably doesn't cross your mind when you're buying that ticket, though, is whether it's worth it to play the lottery in the first place. We're not just talking about your astronomically low odds of winning either, though realistically, that is probably one good reason not to play. Instead, let's assume that you'll actually win the jackpot. You might be asking yourself, okay, then what could possibly be the downside? It's a question that one Alabama woman had answered for her back in 1999, when she was unknowingly given a $10 million winning ticket for the Florida lottery. Just a heads up, today's story is going to be a little bit different from our usual uploads. Though the case does feature criminal elements as well as plenty of legal drama, it's less about a specific crime itself and more about a series of unfortunate events, namely how one woman's life was completely torn apart by money and greed. Though it's a bit of a departure from our usual format, we hope that you enjoy it nonetheless. As always, be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. While you're there, if you find the video interesting and you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest releases. It really helps us to continue building the channel, and if you've watched a few of our videos already, you might not even realize that you're not subscribed. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get to the video. This is the story of Tonda Dickerson. The morning of March 7th, 1999, started off like any other Sunday for the employees of the Grand Bay Waffle House, located just off of Interstate 10 in Mobile County, Alabama. Working the first shift that day was the usual group of 4 waitresses: 28-year-old Tonda Dickerson, 21-year-old Jackie Fairley, 23-year-old Angela Tisdale, and 45-year-old Sandra Dino, alongside 27-year-old shift manager Matthew Adams. At some point that morning, another familiar face popped up amidst the standard weekend breakfast crowd, a man named Edward Seward Jr. Seward was a 41-year-old former restaurant manager from Bayou La Batterie, a small coastal city just a few miles southeast of Grand Bay, known as the seafood capital of Alabama. Since leaving his job due to health issues, Seward had made a habit of visiting the Grand Bay Waffle House location at least once a week. Not only was the restaurant conveniently close to his sister's house, for him, the trips were also social outings. After getting his coffee and breakfast, he would spend time talking to the staff there, as well as the other regulars. Aside from his habit for making conversation, the thing that Seward was best known for was his tips. Rather than leaving a couple of dollars after his meal, the 41-year-old would instead hand each of the employees a ticket for the Florida lottery. Though a bit strange, for staff at the restaurant, it was somewhat novel. After all, gambling is illegal in Alabama, so the only way to play the lottery for residents in Grand Bay was to purchase tickets from out of state. This usually meant either driving an hour or more into Florida, since Mississippi also didn't have a lottery at the time, or else buying the tickets off of another person who had made the trip themselves. Every few days, Seward would drive across the state line into Pensacola, where he would purchase several $5 quick pick tickets with randomly chosen numbers to give away as tips. This week was no exception. He had purchased a number of tickets from a Groove and Newman's convenience store on 9 Mile Road, then put them in sealed envelopes with the numbers written on the front. The tickets were for the Saturday night draw on March 6th. However, when Seward had come to the Waffle House on March 6th, he discovered that one of his usual waitresses, Tonda Dickerson, wasn't working. Committed to his routine, Seward handed out most of the tickets to the other employees, deciding to hold one back for Tonda and give it to her the following day. The draw would already be over by then, but Seward still wanted to give her the ticket in person. After Seward finished his breakfast that Sunday morning, he handed Tonda the ticket just as he had intended. Like the others, it was sealed in an envelope. Written on the front was Tonda's name, as well as the numbers 3, 4, 7, 36, 39, and 40. Tonda slipped the envelope in her pocket, thinking nothing of it at the time. It wasn't until after she finished her shift that she was able to check the winning numbers from the previous day. All 6 numbers were a match to her ticket. In a state of disbelief, Tonda called her father to verify the numbers. He told her that she had indeed won the Florida lottery. The ticket was one of 2 sold that would split the estimated $20 million jackpot. Tonda quit her job at the Waffle House that same day. Almost immediately, Tonda and her family began to make arrangements for the life-changing amount of money. To them, the first big decision was easy. They would take the prize in annual installments rather than a lump sum. A lump sum payment would mean that they would only get about $5 million, whereas the annual payments of roughly $333,000 over 30 years would net them nearly double. They also decided to create a business that the money would officially be handed over to. Tonda and her husband James would own 49% of the company, while each of her 2 siblings, as well as her parents, would own 17% apiece. The business was called 9 Mil Inc., because this was the amount that Tonda initially believed that she had won. When the last-minute ticket sales were tallied by Florida lottery officials, there was even more good news, when they concluded that each of the winning ticket holders would actually receive a little over $10 million instead. As for what to actually do with the winnings, Tonda had a few ideas. At the time, she, James, and her 9-year-old son from a previous relationship were living in a trailer on a small section of a larger 6-acre plot of land that belonged to her father. She wanted to build a 2-story brick house for them to live in instead. She also wanted to replace her car, which had been stolen, so that she could stop driving her mother's Chrysler LeBaron. For the next couple of days, Tonda slept with her winning ticket in a Ziploc bag under her pillow, dreaming about all of the possibilities ahead, until the arrangements were finalized for the payout. However, when Tonda arrived at the Florida Lottery headquarters the following Friday to sign paperwork and collect the first part of her winnings, she was informed that no money would be changing hands that day. It turned out that the officials there had received a phone call and a certified letter from 2 lawyers who said that the prize money was now disputed. The lawyers represented Tonda's 4 Waffle House co-workers, who said that they were rightfully owed a piece of the jackpot. More specifically, the co-workers claimed that they all had a long-standing verbal agreement about their weekly lottery ticket tips, that if any of them won, they would split the money equally. They claimed that Tonda was now trying to go back on her promise in order to keep all of the money for herself. Furthermore, they didn't want to wait for the money to be paid out in installments. They wanted their share of the winnings now. Tonda flatly denied this accusation, saying that she had never agreed to anything and that her co-workers were making it all up. They responded by filing a lawsuit against her. News of the disputed $10 million jackpot quickly made headlines across Alabama and Florida, where many residents eagerly followed developments in the story. In the meantime, more accusations continued to fly, with Tonda's co-workers accusing her and her family of concocting a conspiracy to try and dupe them out of their share of the money. In particular, they claimed that in the days after she discovered she had the winning ticket, Tonda had tried to pretend that she had gotten it from someone other than Seward. They alleged that she had obviously done this because she knew that she had made a verbal agreement with them to split the winnings from any tipped tickets, and that she had tried this tactic to avoid potential legal action against her. Tonda, on the other hand, claimed that her co-workers were spreading malicious rumors about her and her family, and that they had hired private investigators to follow them to try and dig up dirt that they could use for the lawsuit. As for the conspiracy, Tonda said that she couldn't believe the accusations her co-workers were making. She admitted that she had made some misleading statements about where she got the ticket, but that this had only been done to stop people from prying into her business while she got her affairs in order. Other family members said that the conspiracy accusation made no sense, because if Tonda had wanted to, she could have gone and claimed the prize money on the very first day she found out she won, well before her co-workers had time to contact their lawyers. Though Tonda and her legal team tried to get the case against her dismissed, a circuit court judge quickly decided that the suit would proceed. A jury trial was subsequently agreed upon by both sides, and a date was set for April 19th. If you're like us, then at this point, you're probably wondering how the case made it to court so quickly. It turned out that because Tonda's co-workers were suing to get the lump sum payment from the jackpot, the proceedings needed to be expedited. This was due to an IRS rule that dictated all lump sum lottery payments had to be made within 60 days of the draw. Ahead of the trial, Tonda was offered 2 different settlements by her former co-workers. The first would have given her 30% of the winnings, while they would split the remaining 70%. The second offer would have given Tonda 40%, with the co-workers splitting the remaining 60%. Tonda rejected both settlements, stating in interviews that she felt like the jackpot was being stolen from her, and that she was less worried about the money now than the principle of the entire thing. She said that her goal, more than anything, was to dispel the rumors around her and her family. During the 2-day trial in April, Tonda continued to repeat what she had said from the start, that there was never any verbal agreement between her and her co-workers about splitting the jackpot. Her lawyer referred to the co-workers as, quote, rats coming out of the woodwork, saying that they were the ones who had conspired to steal the lottery money, not Tonda and her family. He also argued that even if there were a verbal contract between Tonda and her colleagues, this would not be enough, stating that contracts of this size had to be in writing in order to be enforceable under Alabama law. The co-workers countered with their same version of events, but importantly, they were able to bring extra witnesses to testify on their behalf. These witnesses included a couple of regular diners at the Waffle House who claimed that they had heard about the plan to split the jackpot, as well as Edward Seward, who said that he had given all of the lottery tickets with the understanding that the employees would share any potential winnings. He also claimed that he had been promised a brand new pickup truck, a white king cab with a gray stripe on it. At the end of the trial, it took the jury just 45 minutes to make their decision. They decided in favor of the 4 Waffle House employees. The judge subsequently ruled that the lump sum payment would be taken as the employees wanted, and that each would get a 20% share of the lottery winnings. While the Waffle House employees were understandably ecstatic about the ruling, Tonda was furious. In an interview after the decision, she said, quote, "It was stolen from me through one big fat lie. They're trying to get away with it, and the courts are letting them." She also vowed to submit an appeal. When Tonda's lawyer told her that she was unlikely to win such a case, she fired him, shopping around for a new legal team until she found one that agreed to take the appeal to the Alabama Supreme Court. In the meantime, she returned to work at a different Waffle House, with her legal costs continuing to pile up. Just as it looked like the order for the money to be split up evenly might go forward, the state Supreme Court accepted Tonda's appeal in June of 1999, leaving the money once again out of the reach of everyone involved. The court declined to hear oral arguments, saying that written ones would suffice. While the legal team for Tonda's co-workers mostly rehashed their arguments from the first trial, this time Tonda's lawyers tried a different approach. In addition to the arguments that they had made previously, they added 2 new ones. The first was that any potential verbal agreement between Tonda and her co-workers about lottery winnings was invalid because gambling was illegal in Alabama. The second was that since the lottery draw had happened the day before Seward had given Tonda the ticket, he was technically the winner, not the group of Waffle House employees, and that he had in turn gifted the money to Tonda. On Friday, February 18th, 2000, the state Supreme Court sided with Tonda in a 5-2 decision. In the majority opinion, Justice Hugh Maddox stated that he and the other justices were in agreement with Tonda's lawyers, saying that any verbal agreement between her and her co-workers constituted a gambling contract and was therefore not enforceable in Alabama. Tonda was now entitled to the full sum of money attached to the winning ticket. Though this again initially seemed like it might be the end of the lottery dispute, it was now Edward Seward's turn to enter the conflict directly. Following the state Supreme Court decision, he filed a lawsuit against Tonda himself, alleging that she had defrauded him. According to Seward, he had given the lottery ticket as a gift with 2 conditions attached: that Tonda would share the winnings with her co-workers, and that he would get his king cab pickup truck. He said that because Tonda had broken this agreement, he now wanted his ticket back. The lawsuit dragged out for an additional 2 years, All the while, Tonda continued to rack up lawyers' fees and continued to pay off other expenses from her previous legal battles. By this time, she was now going through a divorce with her husband James, who also claimed that he was rightfully entitled to half of the lottery winnings as well. However, as wild as things had been up until this point, they hadn't reached their peak just yet. In February of 2002, on the very same week that the last of Seward's lawsuit appeals were finally thrown out, Tonda was kidnapped by her ex-husband. According to reports, it wasn't even the same ex-husband who had previously sued her for her jackpot winnings. This man's name was Stacy Martin, a 35-year-old resident of Jackson County, Mississippi, who had been married to Tonda a couple of years before she won the Florida lottery. While it appears that little was reported about Tonda and Martin's relationship before February of 2002, what we do know is that 3 months earlier, Martin had been arrested on burglary charges after breaking into Tonda's house. Apparently, he too had found out that she had struck it rich. At approximately 6:30 a.m. on February 8, 2002, Tonda was getting ready to go to work when Martin forced his way through the driver's side door of her pickup truck. After pushing her into the passenger seat, he drove off, heading down Highway 90 into Mississippi. During the drive, he repeatedly told Tonda that he was going to kill her. The journey continued until the two arrived at the Bayou Heron boat launch, located in an isolated area outside of Pascagoula. As Tonda pleaded with Martin to let her go, her phone began to ring inside of her purse. She asked him to please let her answer it, but he refused. When it rang for a second time, she said that if she didn't answer, people would start looking for her. This time, Martin begrudgingly agreed, and Tonda reached into her bag. Only, instead of a cell phone, she pulled out a .22 caliber pistol. When Martin realized what was happening, he lunged at Tonda, but it was too late. She shot him once on the right side of the chest. Though Martin was able to wrestle the gun away from Tonda after being shot, eventually she convinced him to let her drive them to a nearby hospital. Martin was in serious condition by the time they arrived, but he managed to survive. Based on our research, we were able to find out that Tonda was not charged for the shooting. However, it's unclear if Martin was charged with anything related to the kidnapping. At the time, he was reportedly wanted on multiple charges in Mississippi. Amazingly, even this dramatic kidnapping is not the official end of Tonda Dickerson's story. For that, we need to jump ahead another 10 full years to the middle of 2012, when Tonda finally finished a protracted battle with the Internal Revenue Service. It turned out that when Tonda finally got the lottery winnings that she had fought so hard for, the federal government hit her up for hundreds of thousands of dollars in unpaid taxes. According to them, when she transferred shares of her 9 mil company to her family members, it constituted a gift. Based on the value of the 51% of the company she gave to her family members, the IRS calculated that she owed nearly $800,000. Tonda disagreed with this assessment, allegedly arguing, if you can believe it, that the money given to her family members did not constitute a gift because there was a pre-existing verbal contract between them about her lottery winnings. Namely, if any of them won any money, they had agreed to share it. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Granted, the argument appears to have been a little more nuanced because of the legal partnership the family entered into through the 9 Mil Inc. company. However, this was done after Tonda already won. In court, it was decided that it didn't matter that 9 Mil had technically signed for the lottery winnings. The money allotted to the family members was effectively a gift. When a final decision was made in the case in March of 2012, it appears the one area where Tonda was given a slight break was in how the gift tax was calculated. The winnings ended up being assessed at a lower amount because at the time the gift was given back in 1999, Tonda was in the midst of the lawsuit with her coworkers, meaning that the ticket was technically worth less. Unfortunately, it's not clear just how much money Tonda Dickerson got to keep at the end of all of this. Based on the reporting we found, it appears that during the battle with the IRS, her winnings were calculated as if she had received the $5 million lump sum payment rather than the 10 that she had initially wanted. Perhaps this was forced on her because of the outcome of the first trial and the 60-day rule we previously mentioned, although we're not exactly sure. If this is the case though, when you consider added taxes and legal fees from her many court battles, the actual money she received was probably substantially less than $5 million. It also appears that a good portion of whatever money Tonda did get, she shared with her family. And we also weren't able to find out how much her ex-husband James got in the divorce. As for where Tonda is today, it's something of a mystery. The last known report about her we were able to find was from 2018, and mentioned that she was still working, apparently as a poker dealer in Biloxi, Mississippi. Perhaps understandably, it seems that since the end of her final battle over her lottery winnings, she has chosen to live a life outside of the limelight, something that definitely wasn't possible in her old hometown of Grand Bay, Alabama. According to a report from back in 2001, a poll revealed that 91% of people in the surrounding area had heard about Tonda and her lottery fiasco. Now that you've heard the whole story, what do you think about the case? Do you think the money was worth it? Do you think that things could or should have been handled in a different way? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.